She thought her biggest problem was her cheating boyfriend back in Chicago. Turns out, walking in on a Korean mafia boss in his private bathroom while he's counting down from 10? That's a slightly bigger issue. Let me paint you a picture. Maya Thompson, 25, thought she had her life figured out. Business degree? Check. One-way ticket to Seoul to escape the drama? Check. A job at an elite underground club where she could stay invisible, save money, and rebuild? Check, check, check. What she didn't check? Whether the marble bathroom door she was about to slam shut in panic was off limits for a reason. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Here's the thing about betrayal. It has levels. Level 1, your boyfriend of 3 years sleeping with your roommate. Painful, sure. You cry, you eat ice cream, you move to another country. Classic. Level 2, realizing this safe job you took in Seoul is actually a front for organized crime. Uncomfortable, but hey, the tips are good and you mind your business. Level 3, having a drunk VIP grab you in a corridor, chase you through restricted hallways, and force you to make a split-second decision that lands you face-to-face with the most dangerous man in South Korea while he's in a towel, and he's not happy. Yeah, Maya unlocked Level 3. The night started normal. Serve drinks, smile politely, dodge wandering hands, the usual dance of survival every woman working late nights knows too well. But this particular VIP, some businessman with too much soju and too much audacity, decided no wasn't in his vocabulary. So Maya did what any smart woman would do. She ran. Down a corridor she'd never noticed before, past velvet ropes and security cameras, through a door that should have been locked, into a bathroom that smelled like expensive cologne and danger. And that's when she heard it. 10. A man's voice, calm, cold, counting down. 9. Maya's heart stopped, because she'd heard the stories. Everyone who worked at the club had. Jin Park, the owner. The boss, the man who built an empire from nothing and protected it with everything, the kind of man whose bathroom you definitely, absolutely, under no circumstances should be hiding in. 8. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because Maya, brilliant, educated, too smart for her own good Maya, made a calculation. She could open the door, apologize, probably get fired, maybe worse, or she could stay silent, wait it out, and pray he hadn't actually seen her yet. She chose wrong. 7, 6, 5. The countdown continued, and Maya realized something terrifying. He knew she was there. He'd known the whole time. This wasn't a countdown to 0. This was a countdown to a choice. His voice wasn't angry, it was uncurious, like he was giving her time to decide what kind of person she wanted to be in this moment. Fight, flight, or something else entirely. 4, 3. And here's the plot twist that even Maya didn't see coming. When that countdown hit 0, Jin Park didn't threaten her, didn't call security, didn't reach for a weapon. He asked her one simple question that changed everything. Do you want to keep running, or do you want to stop being invisible? Because Jin Park had done his homework. He knew who Maya was, knew why she'd come to Korea, knew about the cheating ex, the business degree collecting dust, the brilliant mind wasted serving drinks to men who didn't respect her. He'd been watching her for weeks, not as prey, but as potential. And suddenly, Maya realized she wasn't trapped in a bathroom with a mafia boss. She was being offered an interview. The job description? Unclear. The salary? Dangerous. The benefits package? Survival, power, and a chance to become someone even her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend would envy. The catch? Once you're in, you're in. No 2 weeks notice, no LinkedIn updates, no going back. So what did Maya do? Well, that's what you're about to find out. Because this story isn't about a girl who got lucky, it's about a woman who got smart, who turned a moment of terror into an opportunity, who learned that sometimes the most dangerous choice is the only one worth making. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let me know. Would you have opened that door or stayed silent? And hit subscribe because tomorrow I'm revealing what Jin Park's real business is, and trust me, it's not what you think. This is the story of how Maya Thompson walked into a bathroom and walked out as someone completely different. Let's begin. Episode 1. The Invisible Life. Maya had been in Seoul for exactly 4 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days when everything changed. Not that anyone was counting. Certainly not her, alone in a shoebox apartment in Itaewon, watching Korean dramas with English subtitles and pretending the characters were her friends. Pathetic? Maybe, but it was safer than the alternative. The rules were simple, and Maya had memorized them her first night at Club Azur. Don't ask questions, don't make eye contact with VIPs, don't go past the velvet rope on the 3rd floor, don't acknowledge what you see, don't tell anyone where you work, and whatever you do, don't get noticed. Invisibility wasn't just a survival strategy in Seoul's underground, it was an art form, and Maya had a master's degree in disappearing. Back in Chicago, she'd been somebody. Dean's List, scholarship student, the girl most likely to break generational curses and buy her mama a house. Then Marcus happened. 3 years of "we're building something together" evaporated the night she came home early and found him building something with her roommate, in her bed, using the expensive sheets she'd bought. That was the thing about betrayal. It didn't just break your heart, it broke your story, the narrative you'd been telling yourself about who you were and where you were going. Maya's entire identity had been wrapped up in being the smart one, the responsible one, the one who made good choices. And she'd chosen Marcus. So she did what any self-respecting woman with a business degree and nothing left to lose would do. She opened her laptop, found the cheapest flight to anywhere, and landed in Seoul with 2 suitcases and 0 plans. Teaching English seemed obvious, but Maya's degree wasn't in education, and the programs that didn't require certification weren't exactly paying rent. That's when she saw the listing. Hostess needed, high-end establishment, no experience necessary, excellent pay. She should have known better, but excellent pay bought plane tickets home if things went wrong. It bought time to figure out what came next. It bought the luxury of not calling her mother and admitting she'd failed. Club Azur was beautiful in the way dangerous things often are. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, men in $1,000 suits making deals that would never see daylight. Maya's job was simple. Serve drinks, speak minimal Korean, look pretty but not too pretty, and perfect the art of being furniture. The other girls, mostly Russian, a few Chinese, 1 Brazilian, they'd tried befriending her at first, invited her to their shared apartments, offered to teach her the ropes, the real ropes, the ones that involved private rooms and negotiable boundaries. Maya declined politely. She wasn't judging, she just couldn't afford complications. So she kept to herself, learned her 12-table rotation, memorized which VIPs liked their whiskey neat and which ones got handsy after the 3rd round, developed a 6th sense of reading rooms, when to appear, when to vanish, when to pretend she didn't speak English even though she'd caught every word of their illegal conversation. 4 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. She'd saved almost enough to maybe, possibly, start looking for something legitimate, something that made her shower twice when she got home, trying to wash off the feeling of being watched, evaluated, priced. Her apartment was tiny, but it was hers. No roommates to betray her, no Marcus to disappoint her, no one who expected anything except rent on the 1st. She'd bought a small plant, a succulent that the Ajuma at the corner store promised couldn't die even if Maya tried. She'd named it Hope, ironically, and kept it on the windowsill where morning light turned its leaves golden. This was enough. This had to be enough. Invisible, safe, and saving money. The holy trinity of starting over. Maya didn't need friends, didn't need romance, didn't need to be seen or known or valued. She just needed to make it through each shift without incident, collect her pay, and build enough distance between who she used to be and who she might become. It was lonely. God, it was lonely. But loneliness didn't cheat, didn't lie, didn't promise forever and deliver 3 months. She could live with lonely. She'd already survived worse. Or so she thought.
right up until the night a drunk VIP decided invisible girls were actually the most interesting ones, right up until she ran, right up until she made the mistake that would prove you can't hide from your own life forever. Some doors once opened can never be closed again. Episode 2. The Mistake. The VIP in question was named something like Kim or Park or Lee. Maya had learned that half the men in Korea shared about 5 surnames, which made forgetting them professionally very convenient. What she couldn't forget was the Rolex, the tailored suit that probably cost more than her college tuition, and the way his eyes had tracked her movement all night like a predator watching prey circle closer. She'd served his table 4 times, whiskey, neat, then whiskey with ice, then just ice because he wasn't actually drinking anymore, just watching. The other girls had noticed too. She'd caught their warning glances, the subtle head shakes that meant trouble. Maya had handled worse, or thought she had. It was nearly 2 in the morning when he called her over the 5th time. The club was starting to empty, which meant fewer witnesses and more boldness. Maya approached with her practiced smile, polite but not inviting, professional but not cold, the Goldilocks zone of customer service. "You speak English," he said. Not a question. His accent was thick, but his grammar was perfect, which meant international business school, which meant connections, which meant untouchable. "A little," Maya lied, her standard response. "I think more than a little." He smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. "Sit. Have a drink with me." This was the moment, the fork in the road every hostess faced eventually. Say yes, and the boundaries dissolve. Say no, and risk offending someone who could have you fired or worse. Maya had watched other girls navigate this. Some sat, some didn't work there anymore. "I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to drink on shift," she said, still smiling, already stepping back. His hand shot out faster than she expected, catching her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to send a message. "I'm not asking." Time slowed the way it does when your brain is calculating 1,000 possibilities per second. Scream? Security might come, might not, might take his side anyway. Pull away? Escalate the situation. Comply? Accept whatever comes next. Maya chose option 4. She threw the ice water from his glass directly into his face. The shock gave her exactly 2 seconds. She yanked her wrist free and ran. Behind her, she heard his roar of outrage, the scrape of his chair, the gasps from nearby tables. Her heels clicked against marble as she sprinted towards the back hallway, where staff usually disappeared, but he was faster than a drunk businessman had any right to be, his footsteps thundering behind her. The main corridor was blocked by security dealing with another situation. Maya pivoted right, then left, her heart slamming against her ribs. She'd worked here for months, but never been in this section. The decor changed, less commercial glitz, more private luxury, thick carpets, actual artwork, doors with keypads instead of handles. "You stupid bitch," his voice echoed behind her. Closer now. "Do you know who I am?" Maya didn't care who he was. She cared about the growing certainty that no one was coming to help her, that she'd made a mistake trusting that rules protecting staff actually meant anything, that invisible girls stayed safe right up until someone decided to see them. Another corner, another hallway. This one was different, quieter, darker, the kind of space that existed beyond velvet ropes for a reason. Warning signs her panicked brain couldn't process. She just needed distance, a place to hide until he gave up, or security found them, or something, anything changed. That's when she saw it, a door, slightly ajar, light spilling from inside, the sound of running water. Maya didn't think. Thinking is what got you caught. She shoved through the door, slammed it shut behind her, and engaged the lock with shaking fingers. The running water stopped. Maya turned around and understood immediately that she'd made a catastrophic error of judgment. This wasn't a storage closet or empty office. This was a private bathroom, expensive marble, rainfall shower, heated floors, and towels that probably cost more than her rent. And standing there, towel wrapped around his waist, water still dripping from dark hair, was a man she'd only ever seen from a distance, the owner, the ghost who appeared in whispers and rumors, Jin Park. He looked at her, really looked at her, in a way that made invisibility impossible. Then he smiled, and it was somehow more terrifying than the drunk VIP's rage. 10, he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Maya's blood turned to ice. 9.
Episode 4. The Offer. Jin Park moved to the marble counter and leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her like she was a puzzle he'd decided was worth solving. Outside the door, Maya could hear muffled sounds, footsteps, raised voices, someone shouting in Korean. The drunk VIP was still looking for her, but in here, time seemed suspended. "Tell me why you're in Seoul," Jin Park said. Not a request, never a request. Maya swallowed hard, her back still pressed against the door. "Fresh start," she said, then reconsidered. "Honesty," he'd said. "Running away, actually, from a relationship that imploded. Thought distance would help. And did it? Not really. Turns out you take yourself with you wherever you go." The words came out bitter, and Maya immediately regretted them. Too real, too vulnerable. But Jin Park just nodded like she'd confirmed something he already knew. "You have a degree, business administration, concentration in financial analysis, graduated with honors, yet you're serving drinks to men who treat you like furniture. Why?" Maya's stomach dropped. He didn't just know her name, he knew everything, had probably known since the day she applied, which meant this whole time while she'd been playing invisible, he'd been watching her like a chess piece waiting to be moved. "The English teaching programs required certifications I didn't have, and the club pays well enough that I could save." "You could save enough to run again," Jin Park interrupted. "Back to America, or somewhere else, somewhere you could keep hiding from whatever it is you think you're hiding from." He tilted his head. "How's that working out for you?" Maya didn't answer. They both knew how well it was working. She was locked in a bathroom, terrified, her carefully constructed invisibility shattered. "You're smart," Jin Park continued, his tone almost conversational now. "Smart enough to assess risks, to stay under the radar, to make yourself forgettable. But here's what you haven't figured out yet, Maya Thompson. Being forgettable is just another way of being powerless, and powerless people don't survive in my world. They get used up and thrown away." He pushed off the counter, and Maya tensed, but he didn't approach. Instead, he paced slowly, like a professor delivering a lecture. "Right now, you have a problem. Kang Min-woo is outside that door, drunk, angry, and embarrassed. Men like him don't forgive embarrassment. He'll complain to management. He'll demand you be fired, at minimum. At worst, he'll wait for you outside the club and finish what he started." Maya's throat tightened. She'd known there would be consequences for throwing that water, but hearing it spelled out made it brutally real. "Your second problem," Jin Park continued, "is me. You've seen where my private quarters are. You know I exist beyond the rumors. You're a witness to things employees aren't meant to witness, which makes you a liability." "I won't tell anyone," Maya said quickly. "I'll sign whatever you want. Jin Park raised his hand again, and she fell silent. "Your promises mean nothing," he said, not unkindly, "because you have no leverage, no power, nothing that makes your word valuable. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" Maya understood. She was expendable, replaceable, one girl among hundreds in Seoul trying to survive. Nobody would ask questions if she disappeared. "So here's where we are," Jin Park said, stopping his pacing to face her directly. "I'm going to give you 3 options. Choose carefully because you only get one choice and there's no changing your mind after." The room felt too small suddenly, the air too thin. "Option 1. You walk out of here right now. I'll have security escort Kang Min-woo to a car. You'll quit tonight, leave Korea within 72 hours, and never speak about what you saw or heard in this club. You disappear completely and permanently." Maya's chest tightened. Run again, start over again, prove that she really was just someone who gave up when things got hard. "Option 2, Jin Park continued, his dark eyes never leaving hers. You stay employed at the club. I'll handle Kang Min-woo. He won't touch you again.
but you remain a liability I'm choosing not to eliminate, which means you'll be watched constantly for any sign you might become a problem. You'll spend every day wondering if today's the day I change my mind. You'll never be able to relax, never be able to trust that you're safe. You'll just be waiting. Somehow, that option was worse than the first, a prison made of paranoia. What's option 3? Maya asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Jin Park smiled, and this time it was sharp, calculating, the smile of a man about to make an offer he knew you couldn't refuse. Option 3, you work for me, not as a hostess serving drinks, but for something more valuable. I need someone with your education, your analytical mind, someone who can move in certain spaces without raising suspicion, someone smart enough to understand the work, but desperate enough to accept it. Maya's heart hammered. You want me to work for the Mafia. You want me to work for me, Jin Park corrected. There's a difference. You'd be paid well, protected, given resources and opportunities you'd never access serving drinks. You'd matter, Maya. You'd be seen. Isn't that what you wanted when you ran to Korea, to matter again? The question hit harder than any threat, because he was right. She'd spent months invisible, telling herself it was safety, when really it was just another form of giving up. And if I say no? Maya asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Jin Park smiled, and this time it was almost sad. Back in America, you'd just be another overqualified graduate working at a mid-level job. Here, I see potential. Do you really want to choose to stay exactly where you are? The silence stretched. Outside, the voices had faded. Kang Min-woo probably had been contained or escorted out. The immediate threat was gone, but the larger question remained. What exactly would I be doing? Maya asked carefully. For now, learning, observing, proving you can be trusted. Jin Park moved toward the door, stopping just close enough that Maya had to look up to meet his eyes. Later, whatever you're capable of. I have a feeling that's considerably more than you've shown the world so far. He reached past her, his hand hovering near the lock, but didn't open it yet. I'm giving you until tomorrow night to decide, he said quietly. Go home, think carefully, consider what each option really means for your future, then come back here and tell me your answer. And Kang Min-woo? Maya asked. He will be handled. You won't see him again regardless of what you choose. Jin Park's expression was unreadable. But understand this, Maya. If you choose option 3, there's no safety net, no changing your mind when things get difficult. You'll be in my world completely, and my world doesn't forgive mistakes. He unlocked the door finally, opening it just wide enough for her to slip through. The bathroom exit leads to a service hallway. Turn left, follow it to the end, and you'll come out near the staff entrance. Your shift is over. Go home. Think carefully. Maya stood frozen for a moment, her mind reeling with everything that had just happened. 3 options, 3 completely different futures, and 24 hours to choose which version of herself she wanted to become. She stepped toward the door, then paused. Why me? She asked, the question escaping before she could stop it. Jin Park's smile was almost sad. Because I've been watching you for 4 months, Maya Thompson, and I've seen something everyone else missed. You're not hiding from heartbreak. You're hiding from your own potential, from the fear that if you actually tried, you might fail. He paused. I'm offering you a chance to stop hiding. Whether you take it or not is entirely up to you. The words struck deep, cutting through every excuse she'd been telling herself. Maya walked out of the bathroom, down the service hallway, and into the Seoul night, Jin Park's offer echoing in her mind with every step. 3 options, 1 choice, and the terrifying realization that for the first time in her life, she actually wanted option 3.
The walk home took 20 minutes, but Maya's mind ran through 1,000 lifetimes in that space. Every step echoed with Jin Park's words, his offer, the weight of a choice that felt less like freedom and more like fate closing in. Her apartment had never felt smaller. Maya dropped her bag by the door and stared at Hope, her succulent, still sitting in its spot on the windowsill, still alive, still surviving despite being mostly ignored. She wondered if that's what she'd become, something that survived but never thrived, existing in the margins of other people's stories. She didn't sleep. Couldn't. Just sat on her bed with her laptop open, staring at job listings she'd bookmarked weeks ago. English tutor positions, administrative assistant roles, customer service representative, must be fluent in Korean. Every single one felt like settling, like choosing invisibility all over again, just with a different uniform. Option 1 kept whispering in her ear, "Leave Korea, go home." Her mother would welcome her back, wouldn't even say, "I told you so," until at least the second week. She could find work in Chicago, maybe not using her degree, but something stable, something safe, something that didn't involve counting down from 10 in a mafia boss's bathroom. But then what? Maya Thompson, the girl who tried and failed. Again, the girl who ran from Marcus, ran to Seoul, and ran back when things got complicated. At what point did running become her entire identity? She opened her messages and scrolled to Marcus's name. She hadn't deleted his contact, hadn't blocked him, just left it there like a scar she occasionally pressed to remember it still hurt. His last message was from 3 months ago. "Hope you're doing okay out there." Translation: I hope you're suffering enough to realize what you lost. Maya's finger hovered over the keyboard. She could text him right now. Tell him she was coming home. He'd probably feel vindicated, justified in his choices. Look, she couldn't make it without me. She wasn't as strong as she pretended. She closed the message thread. Option 2 was somehow worse than option 1. Stay at the club, stay invisible, but know she was being watched. Live every day as a potential threat, a liability being tolerated rather than valued. That wasn't survival. That was slow suffocation, the kind that took years instead of seconds. Which left option 3. Maya stood and paced her tiny apartment. 5 steps to the wall, turn, 5 steps back. Her business degree hung in a frame she'd bought at a Seoul street market, the glass already collecting dust. 4 years of studying financial systems, market analysis, risk assessment. For what? To serve drinks and memorize whiskey preferences? Jin Park had seen it, seen her. Not the invisible girl playing it safe, but the potential she'd buried under fear and heartbreak, and the desperate need to not fail again. But here was the thing that kept her awake, the moral equation she couldn't solve. Working for Jin Park meant becoming complicit. In what, exactly, she didn't know yet. But organized crime didn't run on ethical business practices and transparent tax filings. There would be things she'd have to ignore, things she'd have to facilitate, lines she'd have to cross. Maya had always been the good girl, the one who followed rules, earned scholarships, made her mother proud, the one who believed in doing things the right way, even when the right way was harder. Choosing option 3 meant killing that version of herself, meant accepting that maybe morality was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. She thought about the other hostesses at the club, girls who'd made their own calculations, their own compromises. Were they bad people? Or were they just people trying to survive in a world that gave them limited options and unlimited judgment? At 4 a.m., Maya made coffee she didn't drink and watched Seoul wake up through her window. Delivery trucks rumbling past, early commuters heading to legitimate jobs in legitimate companies, normal people living normal lives, unaware that in a tiny apartment in Itaewon, someone was deciding whether to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The sun rose, indifferent to her crisis. By noon, Maya had made her decision, not because she'd resolved the moral dilemma, she hadn't, but because she'd finally asked herself the right question. What did she have to lose? Her integrity? That had been compromised the moment she'd taken a job at a club she knew was dirty. Her safety? She'd never had it, not really, not serving drinks to drunk men who saw her as furniture. Her mother's approval? She'd lost that when she'd gotten on the plane to Seoul. What she had to lose was potential, the chance to be more than forgettable, the opportunity to use her mind for something that mattered, even if what it mattered for wasn't exactly legal. Maya showered, dressed in the only professional outfit she owned, and headed back to Club Azur. It was early, the club wouldn't open for hours, but Jin Park had said to come back with her answer, and Maya suspected he'd be there regardless of the time. She was right. The service entrance was unlocked. The hallway that had been a panicked blur the night before looked different in daylight. Still expensive, still intimidating, but navigable. Maya found her way to a door marked private and knocked. "Come in."
Jin Park sat behind a desk that probably cost more than my college education, paperwork spread before him, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up, not surprised, like he'd known exactly when I'd arrive. "I chose option 3, Maya said before she could second-guess herself. Jin Park removed his glasses slowly, studying her face. "You're certain?" "No," Maya admitted, "but I'm certain about what happens if I choose the other options, and I'm tired of choosing safety over everything else." "Choosing this isn't choosing safety," Jin Park reminded her. "It's choosing risk, choosing complexity, choosing to be complicit in activities you were raised to consider wrong." "I know." Maya's voice was steady, even though her hands weren't. "But I'm also raised to believe if I worked hard and played by the rules, I'd succeed. And that turned out to be a lie. So maybe it's time to stop trusting what I was raised to believe and start trusting what I've learned." Jin Park smiled, and this time it was approving. "What have you learned?" "That invisible people don't get choices. They get chosen. I'm tired of being chosen. I want to choose myself." The words hung in the air, true and terrifying. Jin Park stood, extending his hand across the desk. "Then welcome to the organization, Maya Thompson. We start tomorrow, 9 a.m. Wear something you can work in. You'll be learning how we really operate." Maya shook his hand and felt the weight of her choice settle into her bones. There was no going back now. No running, no hiding. She'd chosen herself, even if it meant losing the version of herself she used to be. As she left his office, Maya caught her reflection in the polished marble. The girl staring back looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. She'd crossed the line, and on this side, she was finally, terrifyingly visible. Hope, the succulent, would have to survive on its own now. Maya had stopped settling for survival. Maya arrived at Club Azor at 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes early because showing up late to your first day working for the Korean Mafia seemed like a poor life choice. The building looked different in daylight, less glamorous, more industrial, like seeing a beautiful woman without makeup and realizing the bone structure was what mattered all along. Maya's assistant met her at the door, a woman in her 30s, perfectly tailored suit, hair pulled back so severely it looked painful. She introduced herself as Min So and spoke English with a British accent that suggested expensive international education. "Mr. Park is finishing a call. You'll wait in the conference room." The folder on the table had Maya's name printed in both English and Korean. Inside, a contract, 15 pages of dense legal language running parallel down each page. Employment agreement. Position, financial analyst. Salary, 120 million won annually. Maya's hand froze. That was roughly 90,000 USD, more than triple what she'd been making at the club, more than she'd imagined earning without years of corporate ladder climbing. The confidentiality clause had no specific penalties, just undefined consequences, which was somehow more terrifying than threats. No termination clause, no 2 weeks notice option, just a handwritten note on the final page. You can leave whenever you wish, but leaving means disappearing completely. There is no "I tried it and it wasn't for me." There's only in or out. J. The door opened. Jin Park entered in a charcoal suit, carrying 2 coffees. He set one in front of Maya. Black. He'd noticed. Of course he'd noticed. "Questions?" he asked, sitting across from her.
This salary seems excessive for someone with zero experience. It's market rate for someone with your education willing to work in a gray market. I could hire experience for half the price, but experienced people have loyalties, habits, connections. You're a blank slate. Valuable. He leaned back. The salary also makes you complicit. Once you've accepted this money, spent it, relied on it, you can't pretend you didn't know what you were involved in. Elegant, really. The money wasn't just payment, it was a chain. Golden, comfortable, but a chain nonetheless. "I'm not going to sugarcoat this," Jin Park continued. "You'll be analyzing financial transactions for businesses that don't report actual earnings, creating legal structures that hide illegal money, helping very bad people avoid very justified consequences. If that's something you can't live with, walk away right now." Maya thought about her mother, who'd raised her to believe in right and wrong, thought about Marcus, who'd proven good people did terrible things when it suited them, thought about herself, serving drinks to criminals for months while pretending she wasn't complicit. "I can live with it," Maya said, and picked up the pen. She signed. Jin Park countersigned. Min Seon appeared instantly, collected the contract, disappeared like smoke. Maya's phone buzzed hours later. Bank notification. Deposit. 10 million won. Her first month's salary in advance. The number glowed on her screen, undeniable. She'd crossed the line she couldn't uncross. And for the first time in months, Maya felt alive. Maya had been working for Jin Park for exactly 11 days when Min Seon told her to wear something that looked expensive but not try hard. "You're attending a meeting tonight. Observation only. Do not speak unless directly addressed, and if you are addressed, defer to Mr. Park immediately." "What kind of meeting?" Maya asked. Min Seon's expression suggested the question was stupid. "The kind where speaking out of turn gets you killed. Be ready at 7. The car that picked Maya up was German, bulletproof, and driven by a man whose neck was thicker than her thigh. She sat in back with Jin Park, who was reading something on his phone with the casual focus of someone reviewing a dinner menu, not preparing for a meeting where speaking out of turn apparently meant death. "Yamamoto-san is visiting from Osaka," Jin Park said without looking up. "He controls shipping routes we occasionally use. This is a routine business dinner. You're there to observe how international negotiations work when courts can't enforce contracts." "Why bring me?" Maya asked. "Because watching is how you learn, and because Yamamoto requested I bring my new financial analyst. He wants to see who I'm trusting with sensitive information." Jin Park finally looked at her. "He's testing me by testing you. Don't fail." The restaurant was in Gangnam, underground, accessible only through a kitchen that looked legitimate until you noticed none of the staff made eye contact. They descended stairs into a private room that smelled like expensive sake and old agreements. Low tables, cushioned floor seating, calligraphy on the walls that Maya couldn't read but suspected was either poetry or threats. Yamamoto was older, 60s maybe, with silver hair and a suit that probably cost more than Maya's entire wardrobe. 2 men flanked him, bodyguards trying to look like assistants. Jin Park had brought only Maya, which either showed confidence or stupidity. She wasn't sure which. The greetings were formal, ritualistic, bowing, business cards exchanged with both hands. Maya had been given cards that morning, her name, her title, nothing else. Yamamoto studied hers longer than necessary. "Your new analyst is young and American. Unusual choice." "Fresh perspectives are valuable," Jin Park replied smoothly. "Maya brings analytical skills without the baggage of prior affiliations." "No baggage, or no loyalty." Yamamoto smiled, and it didn't reach his eyes. The dinner started. Course after course of food Maya couldn't identify, sake poured by servers who appeared and vanished like ghosts. The conversation flowed in 3 languages, Korean, Japanese, and English, sometimes mid-sentence, like a test to see who could keep up. Maya stayed silent, watching, her business degree suddenly useful as she tracked the real negotiation happening underneath the polite words. They were discussing shipping routes, container percentages, quality control, which Maya understood meant how much illegal cargo can you move without getting caught. Yamamoto wanted better rates. Jin Park wanted guaranteed discretion. Both men smiled while threatening each other with the consequences of betrayal. Then Yamamoto turned to Maya. "Tell me, Miss Thompson, in your professional opinion, what is the fair market rate for guaranteed discretion?" The room went still. Jin Park's expression didn't change, but Maya felt the shift. This was the test. Answer wrong, and she'd proven Jin Park's judgment was flawed, proven she was a liability, proven that trusting an outsider was a mistake that would cost him respect, power, maybe more. Maya's mind raced. This wasn't actually about market rates. This was about whether she understood how power worked in rooms where contracts meant nothing and word meant everything. "With respect, Yamamoto-san," Maya said carefully,
I don't believe discretion has a market rate. It has a relationship rate, and relationships aren't built on fair. They're built on trust, which is earned over time, not negotiated over dinner. She'd either just passed or signed her own death warrant. The silence stretched like pulled wire. Then Yamamoto laughed, actually laughed, deep and genuine. "She's smart, Park-san. Dangerously smart. I hope you're prepared for that." "I am," Jin Park said, and Maya caught the smallest hint of approval in his expression. The conversation moved on, but Maya's heart was still racing, understanding finally clicking into place. This whole dinner had been theater, a performance where she was both audience and actor, being evaluated for a role she didn't know she was auditioning for. When they left hours later, Jin Park was silent until they reached the car. Then he said, "You did well. Yamamoto will remember that answer. In our world, being remembered correctly is the difference between partnership and elimination." Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Min Seon. "Not bad for a beginner. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Real work starts now." She'd passed her first test, which meant harder ones were coming. Maya stared out the window at Seoul's lights, understanding that she'd just survived something that looked like dinner but was actually warfare, polite, ritualistic, deadly warfare, and she'd won without even knowing she was fighting. The problem revealed itself at 2 a.m. on Tuesday, buried in a shipping manifest Maya had been reviewing for 3 hours. Container 4477B, scheduled to arrive from Busan, listed as agricultural equipment. Except the weight was wrong. The declared tonnage didn't match the cubic footage, and the insurance valuation was approximately 4 times what agricultural equipment would cost. Someone was lying. The question was whether it was incompetence or intent. Maya had been working for Jin Park for exactly 5 weeks, long enough to understand the legitimate businesses were facades, long enough to know which questions to ask and which to pretend she hadn't thought of, long enough to recognize when she was looking at a trap. She called Min Seon at 2:17 a.m. "This better be urgent," Min Seon answered, no sleep in her voice. She probably never slept. "Container 4477B. The numbers don't work. Either someone made a mistake or someone's trying to hide something inside something else." Silence. Then, "Send me everything. Don't mention this to anyone else." At 6 a.m., Maya was summoned to Jin Park's office. He wasn't alone. 3 men she'd never seen before sat in chairs that suddenly made the spacious room feel cramped. Older men, expensive suits, expressions that suggested they didn't appreciate being called in before sunrise. "Explain," Jin Park said, gesturing to the documents spread across his desk. Maya stood, refusing to let her voice shake. "Container 4477B is scheduled as agricultural equipment from Busan, but the weight-to-volume ratio is wrong. Agricultural machinery is heavy, metal, motors, parts. This container's density suggests something lighter, possibly packaged goods. The insurance valuation is also suspicious. 4 million won for farming equipment? Unless it's gold-plated, someone's hiding actual value." One of the older men, gray hair, scar above his left eyebrow, leaned forward. "And what do you think is actually in the container, little girl?" The condescension was intentional, a test to see if she'd back down or get emotional. Maya had spent enough time serving drinks to drunk men to know this game. "I don't speculate," she said evenly. "I analyze data. The data says someone altered this manifest. Either we're being lied to by our shipping partner, or someone in our organization is running a side operation without authorization. Both scenarios are problems." "Perhaps it's a simple mistake," another man suggested, his tone dismissive.
"Then the mistake creates liability," Maya countered. "Customs flags containers with inconsistent documentation. If this gets inspected, legitimate cargo gets seized, routes get burned, and everyone involved gets investigated. A mistake is still a problem." Jin Park hadn't spoken, just watched her face down 3 men who'd probably killed people for less than challenging their judgment. "The container belongs to Choi's operation," Scarface said, looking at Jin Park. "Are you going to let your American analyst accuse Choi of running side deals?" I'm not accusing anyone, Maya said before Jin Park could respond. I'm identifying a discrepancy that puts this organization at risk. What you do with that information is above my pay grade. But if this container gets flagged and I didn't report it, then I'm not doing the job I was hired to do. The third man, who'd been silent until now, actually smiled. She has spine, Park. I'll give you that. Jin Park finally spoke. Maya, wait outside. She left, her hands shaking only after the door closed. Through the heavy wood, she heard raised voices, then silence, then what sounded like a phone call. 40 minutes passed. Maya counted every second, wondering if she'd just ended her career or her life. The door opened. The three men filed out, Scarface giving her a look that promised this wasn't over. Then Jin Park appeared. The container was Choi's side operation, he said quietly. Unauthorized use of our routes to move counterfeit pharmaceuticals. If it had been flagged, it would have exposed 3 years of legitimate operations. Maya's stomach dropped. I didn't know. You weren't supposed to know. You were supposed to analyze data, which you did, correctly. Jin Park's expression was unreadable. Choi will be handled. The container will be rerouted and disposed of. And you just made 3 very powerful men look incompetent in front of their boss. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't apologize for being right. Apologize for being wrong. You were right, which means you're now a problem for people who don't like being shown up by a 25-year-old American woman. He paused. It also means you're valuable. People who find problems before they explode are worth protecting. But understand, you've made enemies today. Powerful ones. What do I do? Maya asked. Your job. Better than they do theirs. That's how you survive. Jin Park almost smiled. You stood your ground against men who've been doing this since before you were born. That takes courage or stupidity. I'm hoping it's courage, because stupid people don't last long here. Maya went home as the sun rose, understanding she'd just crossed another line. Not into criminality, she'd done that when she signed the contract, into something more dangerous, competence. Being good at this job meant threatening people who'd built careers on being irreplaceable. Her phone buzzed. Min Seo. Well done. Also, watch your back. Choi doesn't forget. Maya stared at the message, then at her bank account. Another month's salary had deposited. Blood money, her mother would call it. Survival money, Maya thought. She'd exposed a trap meant to destroy Jin Park's operation, challenged criminals twice her age, and survived. For now. 3 months after finding the discrepancy in container 4477B, Maya stopped being the American girl who got lucky and became the analyst who saw everything. The shift happened gradually, then all at once, the way respect always works in organizations built on competence and fear. It started small. People nodding when she entered rooms, her opinions requested in meetings instead of tolerated, an office upgrade from the basement bullpen to the 4th floor, 2 levels below Jin Park, but miles above where she'd started. The other analysts, mostly Korean men with decades of experience, stopped explaining basic concepts and started asking her questions. Then came the night that changed everything. Jin Park called her to his office at 11 p.m. Not unusual anymore. Maya had learned that criminal empires didn't operate on business hours. Inside, she found him with Min Seo and 2 other members of his inner circle, people whose names she'd learned but whose full roles remained deliberately vague. We have a problem, Jin Park said, gesturing to financial documents spread across his desk. The Busan operation is bleeding money. Someone's either stealing or incompetent, possibly both. I need to know which, and I need proof solid enough to justify removing people who've been with me for years. Maya spent the next 72 hours rebuilding 3 years of financial records. She slept 4 hours total, lived on coffee and the expensive takeout Min Seo kept appearing with, and disappeared so deeply into spreadsheets that she forgot what daylight looked like. What she found was elegant in its simplicity. The Busan manager wasn't stealing large amounts. That would trigger audits. Instead, he'd been skimming small percentages across hundreds of transactions, hitting the theft in rounding errors and exchange rate fluctuations. Over 3 years, he'd stolen approximately 340 million won, roughly 250,000 USD. But Maya found something else.
The manager had been careful, smart even, the kind of smart that suggested he'd done this before. She cross-referenced his employment history and discovered he'd worked for 2 other organizations before joining Jin Park. Both had experienced similar inefficiencies in their operations. Both had eventually collapsed. He wasn't just a thief, he was a saboteur, possibly working for a rival organization, slowly bleeding Jin Park's empire while appearing loyal. Maya presented her findings in Jin Park's office with the inner circle present. She'd prepared a 40-page report, but Jin Park stopped her after 3 pages. "Recommendations?" he asked. This was the moment. She could play it safe, present options, let him decide, or she could do what she'd been hired to do, think like someone who understood how power actually worked. Remove him immediately. Don't give him time to destroy evidence or run. Audit everyone he hired, he's probably built a network, and make the removal public enough that others understand the cost of betrayal, but quiet enough that it doesn't signal weakness to outside organizations. Silence. Then one of the inner circle members, an older man named Kang, who'd never spoken to her directly before, laughed. "She thinks like us now," he said to Jin Park. "Took you 3 years to get there. She did it in 3 months." Jin Park's expression was unreadable. "Execute it. Maya, you'll oversee the transition. Choose his replacement from the existing team. Someone clean, someone loyal, someone who understands what happens when trust is violated." Maya had just been given operational authority, real power, not just analytical responsibility. She was no longer the outsider being tested. She was inside, making decisions that would end careers and possibly lives. The Busan manager was removed within 6 hours, quietly, efficiently, permanently. Maya didn't ask what removed meant in this context. She'd learned that some questions were better left unasked. 2 weeks later, Jin Park summoned her again. This time, he poured 2 glasses of whiskey, the expensive kind he reserved for celebrations. "To transformation," he said, raising his glass. "You came here invisible, desperate, running from a broken heart and a failed life. Now you're someone people fear and respect. How does it feel?" Maya thought about the girl who'd hidden in a bathroom 4 months ago, the girl who'd chosen safety over everything, invisibility over risk, survival over living. That girl was gone, buried under spreadsheets and criminal finance and decisions that would have horrified her mother. "It feels like I'm finally awake, like I've been sleepwalking my entire life and just now opened my eyes." Jin Park smiled, the genuine kind she rarely saw. "Welcome to the inner circle, Maya Thompson. You've earned your place here. Now comes the hard part, keeping it." They drank, and through the window, Seoul glittered like a promise and a threat. Maya was no longer invisible. She was seen, valued, powerful. She'd transformed from a hostess serving drinks to a decision-maker who controlled fates. And the terrifying part? She was good at it, better than she'd ever been at playing it safe. So here's my question for you. Would you have made the same choice as Maya did? Taken the risk, crossed the lines, transformed yourself into someone unrecognizable? Or would you have chosen safety, invisibility, the life that didn't require becoming someone else? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you want to see where Maya's story goes next, because trust me, someone in the inner circle always wants your position, hit that subscribe button. Her transformation is just beginning, and the real test is whether she can survive the world she's chosen.